We are live.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Good evening, to anyone who is watching. This is the March 5th, 2025 meeting of the Mount Vernon Charter Review Commission. As you can tell, we are virtual. This was originally a meeting that we were going to have at City Hall, but due to some concerns about the weather, we decided to take the meeting virtual. The notice was changed, and we supplied notice on our website as well. So we're going to start with the roll call. When I call your name, if you could just please come off camera and acknowledge your presence. Kareem Bell.
Present.
Rosa Blackwell Lawrence. Brian Dwyer.
Here.
Anitra Hadley.
Present.
Mary Kingsley.
Here.
Susan Lawley.
Present.
Eileen Lambert.
Present.
Eileen, can you just come off camera real quick? Thank you. Dolores Lopes.
Here.
Erin McGarry.
Here.
Gita Morris.
Here.
Off camera, Gita, real quick. Thank you.
Hi.
Kevin Morrison.
Here. Present.
Thank you, Kevin. Haley Pilgrim.
Here.
Present. I can't.
She's on the screen.
She is. Okay. Oh, there she is. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Haley. David Rogers.
Present.
Monica Whiting Hogans.
Present.
Raquel Bennett. Axel Eberman.
Present.
Vince Ferrandino. Oh, there he is. Michael Justino.
I am here, but my camera is not working.
Baha. I will count you anyway. Gabriel Thompson.
Present.
Are you off camera? I can't see you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Stephen Vasquez.
Here.
Donna Wimple.
Here.
Marinike Williams. Vince, I got you checked in. Okay. Karine, can you just, everyone got the agenda, and I believe the first thing on the agenda is reading the voting into the record, how we're going to vote on March 19th. Just because we did it by email, I realized that we actually, I don't think we ever talked about it in the meeting or read it in the meeting.
Okay, are you ready for me?
Yes.
Okay. Reading into the record, the Mount Vernon Charter Commission voting process for potential ballot initiatives. 1, purpose. The purpose of this voting process is to ensure that the 2024 Mount Vernon Charter Review Commission votes on its subcommittees' proposed ballot initiatives in an efficient, transparent, and organized manner. This process is designed to ensure fair consideration of each initiative while adhering to established voting rules and procedures. 2, meeting on March 19th. Notice of meeting. The notice of meeting for March 19, 2025 should include a summary of the proposed initiatives. 2, each subcommittee will have 3 minutes to list up to 5 initiatives the subcommittee intends to offer for voting by the full commission. In keeping with Charter Commission best practices set forth by the New York State initiatives should focus on fundamentals rather than legislative details. Details of the local government administration and procedures should be addressed in the code. See Guide to Charter Commissions, page 25. Not be achievable via the following methods: the passage of an ordinance, administrative measures, like policies or procedures, exercise of authority already held by the mayor or other impacted elected official, getting new officials into place, passage of legislation that would be more effective than change to the local charter. NCO recommends limiting initiatives to up to 6, reserving 1 for each catch-all to be used for text changes. See Guide to Charter Commissions, page 7. 3, voting procedure. 1, initiatives will be reviewed one by one as follows. Presentation. A designated subcommittee will provide 2-minute summary of the initiative, its purpose, and its potential impact. Public comment. Prior to voting, the public will be given an opportunity to comment on the proposed initiative. Each person shall be given 2 minutes to comment. 2, voting method. The chair will vote last. Commission members will vote. Is that an interruption? I'm sorry. The commission.
Can everyone go on mute, please, if you're not already on mute?
Yeah, because I can't see the screen. Continuing. 2, voting method. The chair will vote last. Commission members will vote in the order of the roll call list, which is alphabetical. Roll call vote. Following public comment, the chair will conduct a roll call vote. Each commission member will respond with their vote of yes, no, or abstain in response to their name. Voting record. The results of each vote, including who voted yes, no, or abstain, will be documented and made available as part of the public record. 3, approval threshold. An initiative will be approved if it receives more yes than no votes from the commission members present at the meeting. And then an initiative will be considered rejected if it receives more no than yes votes from the commission member presenting at the meeting. 4, amendments and modifications. If any commission member proposes amendments or modifications to a proposed initiative during the discussion, the amended initiative will be re-voted on by the commission. The commission may vote to accept or reject the proposed amendments, and the final version of the initiative will be voted on accordingly. 5, group initiatives. If there are similar initiatives that address the same issue, the commission may choose to group those initiatives together for a single vote. This decision will be made by the chair based on consensus or at the request of the commission members. 4, voting outcomes. Initiatives approved for ballot. Any initiative that receives a majority vote in favor will be placed on the ballot for the upcoming election as required by law. 2, initiatives rejected. Any initiative that does not receive a majority vote will not be placed on the ballot. Rejected initiatives can be reconsidered for future meetings or amendments on majority of the commission. 3, tie votes. In the event of a tie vote, the chair will cast the deciding vote to break the tie. If the chair's vote creates a tie, the initiative will not have achieved a simple majority and will be considered rejected. 5, special considerations. Recusal. Any member of the commission who has a direct financial or personal interest in a specific initiative must recuse themselves from voting on that initiative. Recusal must be declared before the vote on the initiative takes place. Abstentions. Commission members who choose to abstain from voting must provide a brief explanation during the meeting. Abstentions will not be counted as either a yes or no vote. No quorum. In cases where a quorum is not met, voting on initiatives may be postponed to a later date. 6, documentation and transparency. 1, meeting minutes. The meeting will be recorded and streamed, which will form the record of the meeting with meeting minutes, which should include the text of each ballot initiative, proposed amendments, and the final vote tally for each initiative. Public record. All voting outcomes, along with associated documentation, will be made available to the public via the commission's website, and the summary of the final decisions will be published. The end of the record.
Thank you. We had a proposal from Anitra about making March 19th an initial vote. Anitra, do you want to take like 2 minutes to present that? Do you still want to present that?
Yes, definitely. So thank you for putting that voting process together, Tamala and Kareem, for reading it into the record. My amendment was that we just have 2 votes. So we have a vote on the 19th to say these are the items that we as a group have consensus on moving forward with and doing more research. And then we use the time in between that first vote on March 19th and when we vote prior to putting it on the ballot, after we have time as a full commission to do more research, bring in experts, ask more questions of officials if necessary, and also to hear from the public in a public hearing or two, that we then vote on it fully. And we actually see it written up as a full ballot proposal, and that I believe needs to be done with legal review. So once we see all of that, and then as a commission, we can make a final vote to say yes, yay, nay, we want to move this forward.
Does anyone else have anything to say about that before I give my view on that?
I do. I think it's I support that proposal for all the reasons that were stated. I think it's a better process, a more fair process, and it does give us time to really absorb everything and also includes the viewpoints and feedback from the community.
Anyone else? If you're just going to repeat that, I think that's fine.
I agree.
Okay, got it.
Oh, I have my hand raised, but I guess you can't see.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know
That's
what? It's brown and it's on a brown background, so I couldn't see it. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. My only disagreement with it is we have to spend money for attorneys to flesh out the actual ballot initiatives that will go on the ballot that we vote for, and doing it in advance and then voting to say, well, no, we don't like that one is waste of money. So I don't think we definitely need to do that part. And the other part is we've taken at this point almost a year to go through this process, and what we have right now are our initial findings. We're still going to the community to see if they agree, disagree, or have some other initiatives, which we can add and vote on those later. But I don't think we necessarily need a split vote. We'll vote on what we have on the 19th, and then any subsequent things that come up, we can vote on those later on. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay, I actually really don't want to have like back and forth on it because I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. Kareen?
I'll defer to you. Since it's not a whole bunch of back and forth, I'll
No, you haven't gone. I mean, I don't want like Anitra and David to have like, I get it. I know what folks want, but so what's your view?
My view is that I was going to ask questions about our timeline going forward, because I know that was crunched, because initially we had wanted to move the vote forward to make sure that we had enough time. So splitting the vote and then pushing it back potentially, just want to know what that looks like in terms of us actually getting to another part of this process, which is labor intensive and will take a lot of time. And so we've all been present in this process for the last year or so, or the majority of us. Things are available on video, or past meetings are available if there are points that we have missed or just things that we need more clarification on. And I believe the proposals that we're going to present, the time frame allotted, should be able to give us enough information if we want to move on with it or not, or if this can be taken care of in other aspects that we talked about, either through legislation or by other means. That's my point.
Axel.
Thank you. Just very short, I just don't think it's a particularly good idea to kick the can further down the road, because otherwise we're just going to get lost in minutia. And, there's so many aspects to it that we could literally discuss this for the next 5 years, just if we want to, put every little aspect of every single ballot proposal up for a vote. So I don't think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Brian.
Just more of a procedural question. If based on the current proposal and voting and move forward, at that point, if legal counsel or someone identifies an issue with something that we voted to be on the ballot, we do have a process and procedure to pull that out and change course if something did come up, for example, right? It seems like that might be one of the concerns.
Yeah, I don't believe that anything we're proposing now is going to pose a legal challenge. Like, I think we pulled out anything that had that potential. I frankly am of the view that we have enough information to vote on whether or not this is something that we want. And, some of the wrapping up in the details and, the getting things down on paper will happen after the vote. I think that's just understandable. I think that's to be expected. So I am not inclined to make that be the only an initial vote. I think we vote, it looks like, we'll see what we hear from the blue team today, but it looks like the only 3 proposals that may be on the table, other than what the blue team puts forth, are going to be the 3 that we walk through today. There's no legal question that we can do these things. And, I think there is, we supply some ballot language for discussion. Will that be the final ballot language? Probably not. But I still think we can vote on whether or not this is something that we want on the 19th. And that vote is the vote. I think if something comes up in the conversations with the community, nothing stops us from addressing those things. But I don't want to drag this out.
I don't want to drag it out either, but I do feel compelled to say this. So just for instance, we're voting, and we'll get into this later, but we're voting to change the entire structure of the city government of Mount Vernon. And at this point, we have not had any conversations with any city that has done that recently. So we don't know what their experience has been. We don't know if it's been positive. We don't know if there are things we should avoid doing. And so that's why I'm saying, yes, we did some research. Yes, we talked to one person who was in the city manager role. We did that, and that's understandable, but this is serious, right? So we're voting to change the entire structure of the Mount Vernon city government. And if we do that, I think we owe it to this community to at least to continue to do a little bit more due diligence to make sure that this is what we think we're doing is what we actually are intending to do. And so in addition to, making sure that we understand what that means and what it'll mean. I mean, for instance, we have, we have in terms of timeline that we're going to have both an elected comptroller and a city manager, and mixed with the city council the way it's structured currently. So, like, how will that all work? And I saw that there was language there, and we'll get into this in more detail, but I do think it's important to have this discussion. There was language there from the model city charter, but that language is not related to what's currently in the city charter that we have. So, for instance, if you change from an elected comptroller to an appointed comptroller, we have to get rid of the Board of Estimates in contracts. So what does that look like?
So I recognize that obviously, what's in the report doesn't cover every single scenario that could come out of a vote. That's not even possible. It's not even possible to do that until we know what actually passes the commission. Like, that's another reason why I don't think we should drag this beyond March 19th. March 19th, that date doesn't mean that we can't continue to talk to people and, fill in the edges and the details of what we vote on. I do not think that means that we have to make that an initial vote. Axel? Did you not take your hand down?
I
Wait, Mary.
Sorry, I took my hand down. I was surprised.
So you don't have anything to say? Mary?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I have been asking to speak about the model city charter in its entirety, and I have not had that opportunity yet. And I didn't want to get into the whole thing, but one of the things that I have a concern about is more and more layering of definitions and requirements in the charter, because I think we're already way overly complex. And I would really like to see us put in the entire model city charter and then just add in those sections the recommendations that others are making. Because, for example, and Anitra referenced the Board of Estimates, If we search the code for the references to the Board of Estimates, it comes out 2,678.
Mhm.
And that is, if we put in the model city charter, that would all be gone. We
Well,
wouldn't have to deal with
okay.
all those.
We can have another
Excuse me.
meeting.
We
No,
wouldn't
when we
have to
talk,
deal
because I don't
with-
want to drag Mary.
You know, honey, let me talk.
I know what you're saying, okay? I don't want
But
to have a
everybody else
conversation.
doesn't.
The model city charter isn't what's on the agenda tonight. So I want to have a whole conversation about the model city charter.
So the reason for the idea of a second vote is to have these conversations that maybe you don't want to have, but some of us do.
Right.
And it would eliminate the need for having to comb through the entire charter to find changes. It may be the most expeditious way forward.
It doesn't eliminate the need though, right? You still have to first of all, the model city charter is almost entirely premised on the city manager form of government.
Which is the recommendation.
Which is the recommendation, but we don't know if that recommendation is even coming out of the commission, right? After March 19th, it could be voted down, right? And then we've done work using a model city charter with something that the commission didn't vote for. So we actually really need to know what's going to come out of the commission. I'm less worried, frankly, even if I have to do it myself, about, the work that comes after that. But we need to decide what those things are. And I just don't think that should be dragged out beyond March 19th. Again, it doesn't mean that we stop talking about it. It doesn't mean that we stop collecting information, but we have a baseline for a way forward.
Just clarify for me, if we did the model city charter and we decided not to go forward with a city manager, we could still do that within the outline of the model city charter, couldn't we?
They offer an option. It's not the
Yeah.
option. It's not the option. Obviously, it's not the preferred option. So they offer an option. So it would still have to be redrafted using that option and using, frankly, what we already have.
It would just seem to me a lot more efficient. That's my point. And also, I really, one of the issues for me with the charter that we have and adding things to it is when we put things in place that are difficult or not understandable, people tend to discard them and not follow them. So the easier, the cleaner the instruction and the guidelines, I think the better chance you have at compliance from the municipality and its civil servants going forward. So that's one of the reasons I like the model city charter.
I think I like the model city charter too, right?
You do, yeah.
That's why I took the time to include what it would look like if we had all three of these initiatives. That's why the thing is 56 pages long, right? Because the model city charter is in that. However, even that document only works once we know what's coming out of the commission. All right. Eileen has her hand up.
So are we saying that we can revisit this conversation after we decide if this is going to be one of the things that we vote to put forward? Like, will there be the opportunity to revisit the points that Anitra's making and Mary's making after we land on what gets approved by our whole commission? I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Yeah. We don't stop. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, we don't stop talking after that, right? I mean, I think, but it will be much easier, frankly, to know what the work is going forward after we vote. Doesn't mean we stop talking. Again, the language that you're going to hear tonight that we're proposing is offered again for discussion, to give you an idea of what we think, based on our research, the proposals would look like. Right. And then we need to talk about them. But I don't even think that that's useful until we know, are these going to be the proposals? I think that we need to do that, and we need to do it on March 19th.
But
now,
we will continue to talk about it, but we will not have another vote to say. So like once we vote, you're saying that will go to the proposal no matter what we say about it between now and then.
I mean, I think it would have to be something if we talk to a lawyer and the lawyer says, actually, state law changed and you can no longer change your form of government, right? Like, I think that is something, that would impact our vote. I think something short of that, like almost anything short of that, it should not impact. We're talking about three things that we have enough information about, I think, to be able to vote on. If something huge comes up after that, yeah, we can talk about it again, and we should talk about whether or not that impacts the vote.
Well, going
Um,
back to, I think, Anita's point, and then I think, David, you have made this point too. Wouldn't it make sense to pay whatever needs to be paid so that before we vote, we have all this level of information so that there's no potential of needing anything more if we have all this information ahead of the vote? Then
yeah,
even if
I
there is
actually
this
don't
added
think that,
expense.
I
No,
actually
let me
don't,
just
I
finish
think
the,
go ahead.
let me just finish the thought, and if I could just finish the thought out real quick.
Yep.
I'm just trying to, we don't have a lot of time, right, per se.
Right.
And once a vote happens, just if we're thinking Robert's rules, I don't know how we would undo a vote without a vote to undo it, right? So if for some reason we say these things go forward and there is this something that comes out from a legal review after, like where is the space to go back and say to revote versus getting all the data in ahead of the vote, being informed, spending the money, because that's what this process is about, so that that vote is tight and packed and done. And we don't have to think about the layers afterwards or the what if afterwards because we did it proactively. Just a
Yeah.
thought. I'm just.
I understand. I gave an example. I don't think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. The other thing is the lawyers that I've spoken to, and I see Brian has his hand up, and I'm waiting for one to make a decision so I can send him to you, Brian. The preference is that they know what they're working on, right? Not that they do work for everything that we're considering. And then we decide to toss it, and they've done work that's unnecessary. So like, that's one thing. David, you can correct me if I'm wrong, right? But, we vote. And again, if something big comes up and we want to consider it, we can move to do that, right? Like, I mean, nothing really stops that from happening. I think and I think then that goes to a vote, right? On whether or not we think this is something worth reconsidering. We would make that decision as a commission. Brian, did you have some legal counsel?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in line with you and our earlier discussion, I did reach out to Michael Reisman of Hodgson Ross today, and asked him would he be interested in this assignment, and he said he would. He has extensive experience. He's the attorney that I worked with on the Court of Appeals case for the city of Mount Vernon. And his firm works on charter revision. They're currently working through some issues in Rye. I had a conversation. He would want to come down. He'd want to meet. I did say that, you had been working with a consultant and that have a compressed timeline, by which you want to continue to move on. So I just put that out there. I can send you his information. His rates are in line with what the city typically charges for attorneys.
Okay.
So I can pass that along.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And then I also called the attorney that actually signed off on the last charter revision amendments, and I was waiting to hear back from him.
Okay.
All right.
Again, if the guy that NCL recommended says he's interested, I'll send him your way. I didn't want to send him your way if he had not even decided that, he was able to do this.
Okay. All right. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. All right. Brian, can you take your hand down? I just don't want to look at it later and think that you have something to say. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Anyone else on this? Gabriel?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I know sometimes I hear like, oh, you're changing the entire structure of the government of Mount Vernon. I mean, I think that's kind of the point, right? And then we'll get in that as we read through our things, is just to make some changes to improve the government. I mean, if we weren't making changes, none of this would be worth any time. And I think that most of what's being proposed is just bringing us in line with good governance and modern governance practices. We didn't invent anything out of whole cloth here. So I just want to put that out there. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I think that's true, but I also get, the concerns that people are raising. Again, I just don't think that those concerns mean that we don't vote on March 19th. With the understanding that that's not the end of the conversation.
And I would like to also point out that change, we recognize we wanted to make change. That's why when we did the first charter commission, we put on the ballot that there be another charter commission, because we knew that it was a big task. So we all recognize that we want change, but we want change that makes sense and that is well thought out. And to things doesn't always yield the best results.
I understand. Mayor, we're going to move on. Okay.
Conversation. You cut me off every time, Tamala.
Well, no, because we're traveling the same road, and I want to control this. I want to make sure we stay on track. We've heard
conversation between folks exploring viewpoints and ideas is what leads to the best resolution. So people should be able to communicate and speak without interruption.
Okay, we're going to move on.
Sworn in charter commissioners, the most of us are, so they should be allowed to speak, Tamala.
And she did speak, and I just don't want to keep talking about the same thing over and over again. So that's my point. Okay, I totally.
But one person doesn't get to decide that. Like, if I think as a,
I do get to direct the stream of the meeting, Eileen, and I heard everybody spoke. I hear you. I understand that you guys have concerns. I get it. Okay.
Time now, because we're spending time now, wasting time now, because you wouldn't let her.
Okay, we're gonna move on now. Please.
Well, can I make a fresh point? Then we need to establish, like, what are the rules as far as like conversation and back and forth? Like, are we saying there's a 2-minute rule? You could only speak once. Typically, if you're going to impose things like that, there should be some meeting rules then, and then it's about you upholding set rules that we establish.
And we've already
but it can't wait 1 second, please. It can't be that, for instance, you get to get your whole point, or anybody else gets to get their whole thought out, and then when someone else has a point of differing thought, that it's shutting that person down. I'm not just speaking for Mary, I'm speaking for any commission member.
Okay, but it can't be. It's not a differing point. It's not. So
what's the rules around speaking?
To move on. We were only actually supposed to spend like 5 minutes on this. We've been talking about it for a really long time. I'm gonna get.
What's the guidelines? So I'm asking for guidelines to be established. How long does everybody get to speak? How many times does someone get to speak? I just don't think it's fair that anyone gets shut down and there's no rules or guidance around that. So you're picking and choosing who gets to continue a thought and not. It's just not fair or balanced. Okay. So what I'm asking for is, what are the rules that everybody has to adhere to then, so that you can keep, decorum, right? But I just don't like picking and choosing who gets to speak a certain amount of time, and there's just no set rules.
Okay. Axel, please make it quick.
I'll make it very quick. I think one of the first good things in terms of rules would be to everybody raise their hand and be recognized by the chair before they're talking, especially on Zoom, because we have people who just go off talking, right? And this is where things get chaotic. So if you want guidelines, this would be a very good first step. If you want to talk, raise your hand, be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yes, likewise. It was on the agenda for 3 minutes. As you know, Eileen, under Robert's rules, the chair gets to control who speaks, when they get called on, etc. So that's the rules we're following.
Thank you. And look, I feel like I've been super good about letting people speak. What I don't want to happen is that we keep talking about the same thing over and over again. And that's the rabbit hole that we fall down, and we end up talking about the same thing for a long time with different people making the same point. The point has been made. Got it, understand it. I was trying to cut off the response to Gabriel and the change thing. Yes, we are trying to change things. Yes, I get from the people who spoke tonight that you want the change to make sense and you want to be comfortable with it. So I don't think that we need to keep belaboring that point. All right, so Karine, what's next?
What's next is the survey results. We were going to talk about that, and then followed by the blue team presentation, which I will do that last piece of it. So I think we wanted to spend 5 minutes on the survey results, but if you need less time than that, that would be awesome as well.
I think, I hope that at this point, everyone got the link to the survey and the password. Nicole, am I able to share the survey just in case?
Yes.
Can everyone see this? And is it big enough?
Not, that's better.
I can make it bigger. Is that good?
Bigger's better.
I think if you zoom, if you scroll up, if you have a mouse, it should go from probably 100% to maybe like 110.
Yeah, I'm not see where it's letting me zoom.
If you just hit the green plus sign in the top left.
Thank you for the tech quiz. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Mary, is that better? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it better. And I wanted to, I don't see where I can raise my hand, sorry. But so I'm raising my hand. I had forgotten that one of the things that I wanted to say to
Mary, do you have a react button at the bottom of your screen? Like move your mouse down to the bottom of the screen. You see where
I'm not using a mouse, I'm using an iPad. I'm trying to.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't see the react, and I clicked the more. Anyway, I don't see it. I have.
It's fine. Just wave. I'll look for you.
Yes, thank you. That's what I had been doing, and how you recognized me before. The one thing I wanted to do, and I forgot to bring it up earlier, is I wanted to do an introduction in Spanish too. I don't think anybody's watching in Spanish, but invite people in Spanish. So whenever you want me to do that, let me know.
Okay. Sorry, lost my train of thought. So the survey is still open. As you can see, there are 446 responses. The NCL said the completion rate really just refers to people who did not fill out the demographic information, which we sort of expected might happen. The first question, in which areas do you feel local government is performing well? You can see the results. The two highest getters are waste management performing well and none of the above. I'm not going to belabor these because you guys will be able to go in here and look at this yourself. Would you be more likely to engage with local government if there were more opportunities for community input? We got the biggest was yes, and more of these opportunities need to be established through the charter. To Mary's point, the Model City Charter does this. If you read the charter that's included at the back of the Purple Team report, you will see that the Model City Charter does that. So yes, and yes, more opportunities were the two vote getters. What barriers, if any, do you face in participating in local government? Lack of information about how, and meetings not advertised early enough were the two getters. I encourage you to click on the write-in and look at some of those because they were interesting. There's a lot of them, so we're not going to go through them all here. But when you look at the survey, don't forget to click that other and review these. I think some of these could potentially form the basis for a decision maybe about whether or not, we do want to do like a text change. Go ahead and do the text, the subject of the text ourselves. In which areas do you feel local government could improve? Top getter is ensuring that there's transparency in decision making. This also includes a write-in. I encourage you to look at it. And then this was that general question about what people would like to see more of in government. And it looks like the highest getter was regular events where you can talk with your council member and city staff, more back and forth engagement. It sounds like not just you talk and you don't get to say anything else. And then what measures would you like to see in the charter to ensure accountability for governing bodies? Top one was clear consequences for unethical behavior or misconduct. And transparent decision-making. These are also two things that are featured in the Model City Charter. All right, and then the demographic information basically starts. So please let me know, just like email me if you don't have the password and I'll send it to you. It's the same report link, it's just now password protected. When we close the survey, which will be the Sunday before the vote, we will release it, we'll post the results. That's it. Anitra?
Question on the survey. I saw that about 70% were from 10552. Do we know what the population breakdown is in Mount Vernon, the representation by zip code? In terms of like how the population is structured.
I got you. We can ask. I mean, planning probably knows. If that's something that you're interested in, if you want to, feel free to send an email to planning, or if you want to send me the question, I'm happy to send it to them.
Gabriel's raising his hand.
What's that? Who?
Gabriel.
Okay, he's not on my screen. Gabriel?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, my finger on the screen, it wasn't letting me do the hand. Okay, yeah, I think from my brief look at this survey, I think the response, sort of the number one correlation I see is to home ownership rates, which I looked up and is actually fairly common for engagement, involvement, and response stuff. So I know we tried to get more involvement, especially from young people and from other zip codes, but I think it's about 1/3 or so. It's about 20,000 people, 22,000 people in 10552, and then the other two zip codes kind of make up the rest. There's not really a 10551, but anyways.
Okay. Mary, were you waving your hand?
No, because I was just a little unclear when you say 20% in 10550. 20.
I meant this. No, 10552. I meant to say 22,000 or so people. Sorry.
Is that 20% of our population? 20%.
No, it's about 30% of our population.
And I'm also interested to know the breakdown of the people that responded. I think that we might see that the people that are less economically advantaged and certainly non-English speakers are not represented. Do we have the survey available in Spanish and Portuguese?
No. And we did ask again for the information, but people actively chose not to provide it. So,
especially these days, nobody wants to admit.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe not. All right, Karine, what's next? I'm sorry, any other comments or questions on the survey? I don't see any, Karine.
We are up to point 6, which is the blue team presents the mandatory referendum tax cap. So that would be me. So give me 2 seconds to pull up my screen here forgive my, I'm going to read out our report out. And what I would ask is to let me get through it. then close the screen and come back to Zoom so I can see, or Tamla can acknowledge if there's anyone who has any questions or concerns once I'm done. So starting off, exceeding the state tax cap via mandatory referendum. The issue question that we are asking is require a mandatory referendum for the city of Mount Vernon to exceed the New York State tax cap of 2% plus CPI. The city of Mount Vernon should provide residents buy-in on exceeding the state mandated tax cap, as property taxes is a main revenue stream in the city and used to make the budget balanced. Background. The city of Mount Vernon has consistently raised the property tax rate above the state mandate while failing to put forth any cost-cutting measures to reduce the residents' tax burden. Example, the 2024 adopted budget, city expenses of approximately $150 million versus revenue of $76 million, leaving a tax levy of $73 million, which is simple math, 150 minus the 73, minus the 76 gives us the $73 million approximately, or a 7.71% tax increase. In simple terms, the city spends $2 for every dollar generated via sales tax, fees, parking violations, permits, etc., and various revenue received before the tax levy comes in to plug the difference. Charter test questions. Can this problem be solved by the passage of an ordinance? We said no. Can this problem be addressed with administrative measures, such as amending an existing department-wide administrative policy or procedure? Yes. Does the mayor or the city manager already have the authority to make changes that might address the problem? Yes. Should a solution to the problem be sought by getting new officials in place? It is reasonable to, we responded with, it is reasonable to assume that a different controller, mayor, or city council president, i.e. Board of Estimate, have the authority to be more transparent and could act to push back on budget where the expenses far exceed the revenues, which directly impact the tax rate increase. Might legislation address the problem more effectively than a change to the charter? Answer. The proposed referendum requirement would likely be preempted because New York State tax cap override process, GML 3-C, establishes a uniform, comprehensive framework. By imposing an additional voter approval requirement, the amendment would fundamentally alter the legislative process prescribed by state law, creating a direct conflict rather than a permissible restriction. Legal precedent further supports this conclusion, as courts have consistently held that local governments cannot invoke voter referenda on tax policy without explicit statutory authorization. Notably, New York law explicitly provides for school districts to require a referendum to exceed the tax cap. Education Law 2023-A, but omits any similar provision for municipalities. Under standard principles of statutory interpretation, this submission indicates that the legislature did not intend for cities to impose such a requirement. A court would therefore likely find the proposed amendment inconsistent with state law and preempted under the municipal home rule law and the preemption doctrine. From there, we've done some analysis. The city of Mount Vernon has exceeded the tax cap set by the state and is above the CPI plus 2% as identified. Our challenges, like many municipalities, is the heavy reliance on property tax as a major source of revenue. As the caps get tighter to meet with increased expenses and uncertainty in the economy, it has become more challenging to be able to come within the tax cap. The issue of Mount Vernon residents is the consistent increases without a plan on how to either increase revenues or reduce expenses. Residents expect property tax increase, but not at the expense of the city failing to do their part and look for alternative sources of revenue or take a serious look at reducing expenses. The 2025 budget came in flat to prior years, and with the city that has been neglected and deteriorating, residents have had enough of the seemingly unfair tax burden on property owners, especially when it is not fairly distributed against all property owner types, and i.e. individual commercial developers, etc. That said, while requiring a referendum may not be an option, there is a legitimate concern about the misuse of the tax cap override. Successive administrations have relied on exceeding the tax cap as a primary revenue source without making necessary budgetary adjustments. For example, in the same year that property taxes increased by approximately 8%, elected officials approved significant salary hikes for themselves, department heads, and deputies. Likewise, we have seen unexplained increases in headcount, travel expenditures, and other discretionary spending, all while residents face substantial tax hikes. Some of the recommendations that we came up with was, and that we would like to propose and bring forward, is the following. Prohibit discretionary pay for appointed positions. Appointed position increases in any year the city surpasses the state tax cap. These reforms would enhance financial accountability, promote responsible budgeting, and prevent tax cap overrides from being used to fund excessive spending. Moreover, because non-union pay increases are entirely discretionary, there is no conflict with state law. Second recommendation, limit all salary increases to more than the rate of inflation. Again, it follows the same logic. We're not saying not to have increases, but let it be in line with what is commonly accepted practices. And then the third recommendation is limit non-critical spend on city expenses, i.e. travel and entertainment, conferences, conferences in any year the city surpasses the state tax cap. And that concludes the readout for this for this action for the blue team. I'm going to head back now to my screen so I can see you all. I didn't know if there was any questions, concerns, or thoughts in terms of.
I see Mary's waving her hand.
Comment and a question. Comment when, and it may not be included in this, but whenever possible, to avoid in what we do actual figures. For example, taking out 2%, because if the state then changes the tax cap number, then we're out of sync with the charter. So just say in compliance with the state tax cap. And that goes for all individual numbers. One of the issues we found in the old charter was that there were numbers that were so antiquated. Had they not put the specific number in there, it wouldn't have been a conflict. Just a comment. And the question, when you say eliminate or limit discretionary spending, travel, etc., would it be, I mean, how would you limit that? Can you be more specific? And if the tax cap is met, are then they free to spend? Those are my two questions.
So what we're thinking is, and I work in a corporate environment, so there are years when the budget is tight. We go for the soft, we call them soft expenses. Mm-hmm. So your T&E, that's usually travel and entertainment, those things get limited because the question is it necessary that you travel and incur a $5,000, $10,000?
No, I understand.
Trip? So that's what I mean in the space of T&E. But that would be up to the department heads. They can bring that forward. But these are just some of the recommendations that we thought of as a way to show good faith that, hey, we're exceeding the tax cap, but at least we're doing our part within the city of Mount Vernon and being responsible fiscal stewards of the residents' money. In the years that we're not, that we have not exceeded the tax cap, I don't think we had much discussion about that, because if you're within the tax cap, we again expect that there will be tax increases. And if we see the city doing their part, of course, residents will do their part. But that was my personal thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think a percent limit or a cap or some kind of limit in there for when it's exceeded would be good, rather than just say, limit, because people will just run with that.
I mean, and that could be flushed out, but these are just some of the recommendations that we came out, whatever that number may be. I think the collective genius here can kind of figure out what that would be going forward.
Any other commissioner questions, comments? No. All right, Brian, I saw you put your hand down. You had your hand up. I just want to make sure that the commission members get a chance to get their questions and comments in. But did you have guidance? What?
No, I actually have a question. I heard something about limiting salary increase. I thought twice about asking this question, but it's a legitimate question. Where you say that limiting for non-union people the percentage of cost of living increases, what came to my mind is and maybe I'm an oddity, but for some of us long-term employees, I went 8 years without any pay increase. And so which constitutes basically a pay cut in each year when there was a cost of living increase to which we did not receive. So I'm wondering how that factors in when the city does not give appointees pay increases for multiple years. And so if it's going to be a a raise for the cost of living increase, is it for like the current year? And the reason why I bring this up is because I think that it is a serious attract and retain issue for the city because the salaries get so far behind that it becomes a real challenge to hire and attract and retain people when you can't get to market rate. But, it was just something that I thought.
Okay. Let me respond to that. So I think there's a couple of ways that we can look at that. I'm not sure who our director of HR is or our HR professional here, but every salary should be pegged to a min, mid, and max, depending on where people fall to, like everyone is not going to make the same amount of money, but you kind of have an idea of where people are. Those who are at the lower end of the scale, most companies work to keep people in the mid range of any sort of salary. And then you have room to play with the cost of living or, special bonuses, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one thing we could look at. I don't know if that's been done. I'm not sure where most of us fall in the city of Mount Vernon, but if it's done consistently, you will keep your people, you'll keep the masses right where you need them to be. And I agree, if we're not having increases for 10 years, yeah, you're going to drastically fall behind. But if we move the process along, that will help in terms of that. I lost my train of thought on that, but that was really kind of where I was getting at, is just saying that we need to show good faith. So we don't have this, that we have to do, referendums to catch everyone up because they have been so woefully. And then if we are keeping within the mid range of any specific career or any specific job within the city of Mount Vernon, we shouldn't have a problem with attracting, retaining, because we should be where we are supposed to be per employee. So I think, again, going back to your point, the reason why we can't retain is because we haven't been keeping up, probably because we haven't had the money, and then it starts a downward impact. So if we're catching up and then we don't do it again, so let's put the guardrails in, that we have some sort of mechanism so we don't have to do that every 5 to 10 years. That's fine.
I agree. Great. Thanks.
Eileen?
No, just quick question, Brian. Have you had a COLA increase at all, like a cost of living increase, or no increase?
No, the city's practice has been to not give increases. So you accept the salary in a position. So I accepted a salary one time and then did not get a raise again for 8 years. And it's always, you're not getting a raise. And my retort to that is, well, I'm getting a pay increase to the extent that there's a cost of living increase and my salary, and we don't get COLA, then you are systematically giving people pay.
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct.
And that's what happens. And I've had employees ask me, okay, so because they're aware of it, right? That this is what the common practice has been. Some municipalities do have it in there. I saw one that has it in their charter that they give employees cost of living increases. We don't do that. And to your point, as you see, it has been a very complex issue because you have multiple years of basically what is equivalent to pay cuts. And so, yeah, no, the short answer to your question is no, there are no COLA increases built in.
All right, so we won't retain people if that's not factored in, because an 8-year catch up, you'd have to give substantial amount of money to even catch up and break even. So that will be an issue in retention.
Okay. Eileen, are you done?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments on that?
No. I was just going to offer up in terms of what we just said, but this also goes back to looking at the city as a whole, and I'm not sure if it is readily available, but we don't even know. I mean, we've heard that we're not competitive, but we don't really know because we haven't seen it. I mean, ranges of positions, I don't know if it's readily available, but just making statements without having a fully vetted, or I obviously wouldn't have access to salaries, but we don't know. So that was just one of the things that we thought of that, you know, could be something that we would like to bring forward as a to the public. And that concludes my report.
Okay. I don't see, David, were you about to say something? No. All right, I don't see any other hands. So we're gonna move on to the
Team Purple.
Yes, thank you. And so I don't know how many people actually got a chance to look at this. And so what we decided to do, sorry, I'm trying to open it, is I'm just gonna read the opening, and then Dolores is going to lead the council manager section, Brian's gonna do the comptroller section, and Donna is gonna do the council ward section. So I just want to say up front, thank you to everyone for the hard work on this. Really, really appreciate it. All right, so the Governance and Elections Team Purple Subcommittee would like to start by acknowledging the obvious, that there is no magic pill or perfect solution for what ails the city of Mount Vernon or any other city. The fact is that the right combination of the wrong people can overpower even strong time-tested systems. We believe that statement is important to document so readers of this report understand the proposals offered are not about people. They cannot be, because people will always be an X factor. These proposals are about systems and whether, regardless of the people, the systems provide the best opportunity for good governance. So with that in mind, our subcommittee proposes the following 3 ballot initiatives. 1, adopting a council manager form of government. 2, eliminating the elected comptroller in favor of an experienced finance professional appointed solely based on education and experience in the accepted competencies and practices of the accounting and finance professions. 3, adopting a hybrid system for electing council persons, which would include, under a council manager form of government, adding an additional council person for a total of 6. This was a recommendation. This is not a report. I'm just giving you this extra context of the NCL because you never want to have an even number voting body. Electing 2 of the 6 at large and 4 by ward, including the mayor as the 7th voting member of the council. If we were to stick with the current mayor council system, we would maintain the 5 council people, elect 1 at large and 4 by ward. As a team considered each of these proposals, we asked 2 questions. Sorry, I'm just going to stop and ask, would it be helpful to anyone? I don't know if you guys have this in front of you, if I shared this.
I have it.
You have it. Okay. So everyone, I can't hear you, Kareem.
I have it as well.
Okay. All right. So I'm not going to share.
You can, well, okay. I would say share is great.
I think you're alone.
No, it would be helpful, particularly.
Would it be helpful? All right, I'm going to share.
Not only for us, but anyone in the public who is
Oh, that's true.
All right.
on the line.
Can we all see this? And this I actually know how to make bigger. Is this good?
This is good.
Somebody speak. What?
All right, I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm looking on my computer, so.
Others, do you need me to make it bigger? Is this good?
Make it a little bit bigger, please.
Yeah.
No, too much. Go back.
Yeah? Okay. All right. As a team considered each of these proposals, we asked 2 questions. Is the current system working for Mount Vernon? Is the system being proposed better? And if so, how? We concluded that for all 3 proposals, the answer to the first question is no. The systems are not working and have not done so for decades, and the people paying the price are residents. For decades, Mount Vernon has had no established policies, procedures, or protocols. Until very recently, there was no employee manual, and there remains no structured onboarding, orientation, or basic training for city employees. Interviews with the administration and city council revealed that this continues to be the case. Despite having the highest tax rate in Westchester County, Mount Vernon has some of the worst municipal services. The evidence suggests that this is in part due to the absence of professional management. Each time a new administration takes office, executive staff and employees are responsible for providing essential city service, often turnover as well, leading to instability and inefficiency. Responses to the commission survey indicate dissatisfaction among residents regarding the city's condition, responsiveness, and governance. The disparity in conditions across different parts of Mount Vernon suggests that certain areas require better, more focused representation. The absence of clear policies, procedures, and training on mandatory state law compliance has resulted in repeated failures to meet legal requirements, creating unsafe conditions for residents. The city council frequently makes decisions without adequately considering resident input. The city's finances suffer from a lack of professional oversight, leading to repeated losses of public funds due to inadequate or non-existent financial controls, no established fund balance, delinquent taxes of approximately $54 million, including penalties, an increasing debt to the Mount Vernon School District, now nearing $15 million, and a lack of financial expertise resulting in failure to protect the city's present and future financial interests. These are just a few of the issues our team's proposals aim to resolve. Regarding the second question, we unanimously concluded that all three proposals represent a clear improvement over the current system in Mount Vernon. Below, we outline the rationale behind this conclusion supported by our research. The subcommittee considered two other potential initiatives, term limits, which we had spoken about before, and nonpartisan voting. After considerable research and discussion, we determined not to bring those up through committee, and we just wanted to give a brief reason why. The term limits, good governance organizations like the National Civic League do not endorse term limits, though they also don't oppose them. The NCL advises that if a city chooses to implement term limits, they should allow sufficient time in office to complete long-term projects, and that's typically 3-4-year terms. After reviewing the NCL guidance and Mount Vernon's electoral history, our team concluded that imposing term limits would be a solution in search of a problem. Our research found no pattern of officials serving beyond 12 years. Rather, we observed a trend of individuals shifting between different roles within city government over time, regardless of qualifications or past performance. Since term limits would not address this underlying issue, we do not recommend their implementation. And then nonpartisan voting, which was a little more complex. In a nonpartisan voting system, all candidates for city office would run without party affiliations listed on the ballot. A nonpartisan primary would be held in which all candidates, regardless of political affiliation, compete, and all registered voters can participate. The top two vote getters would then advance to the general election. Our team believes that this is a crucial issue for Mount Vernon and should be further examined by a future charter commission. Under the current system, voters who are not registered Democrats have little to no influence over the city's governance, despite paying substantial taxes and contributing to the community. Legally, there is an argument that a Mount Vernon Charter Commission could propose a reform under the broad authority granted by cities by New York's Municipal Home Rule statute. However, the legal theory has not been tested. The only precedent we found was New York City's adoption of ranked choice voting. And while ranked choice voting did face legal challenges from members of the New York City Council, those challenges focused on implementation. They didn't focus on the city's authority or ability to actually modify election procedures. Notably, though, we did not find any legal challenges disputing a city's right to make these changes, which suggests that Mount Vernon could have the authority to pursue this reform. Notably as well, two other cities in New York currently utilize nonpartisan voting, Bordertown, New York, and Sherrill, New York. Both uses, however, predate the 1938 expansion and codification of municipal home rule and long predate the further refinement of municipal home rule in 1963, which really sort of expanded what the state was saying cities could do in the way of electing their officials. Ultimately, the team concluded that given the significance of our other recommendations and the belief that a nonpartisan voting system would be more effectively implemented at the state level rather than on a city-by-city basis, we decided not to advance this proposal. We do just want to reiterate that we do think that this is important, and we think it's untenable that such a large proportion of Mount Vernon voters don't really have a say in the outcome of elections. And I do want to note, because I know we had some conversation about this offline, that I did have a very long conversation with an attorney from the Board of Elections about this. And he agreed. I want to say that this is not legal advice. He was not giving legal advice. He was giving us guidance, but he agrees that, this was something that could potentially be done as part of a charter revision process. And he is actually the one who directed me to the legal research on the ranked choice voting in New York City. And so, the result is what we have here. So finally, while not essential to this report, we thought it would be helpful to present the charter as it would appear if Mount Vernon residents were to approve all three of these proposals. We are not going to walk through that tonight. I encourage everyone to take a look at that. To accomplish this, we closely followed the National Civics League's Model City Charter, and the revised charter is included after presentation of the three proposals. Okay, so Council Manager, I'm going to turn it over to Dolores.
Thank you. Council Manager form of government. Ballot initiative number 1, proposal to change the form of government in the city of Mount Vernon. Shall the city of Mount Vernon, New York, adopt a change to its current form of government by transitioning from a mayor-council system to a city manager-council system? Explanation. Current system, mayor-council. Under the current system, the mayor of Mount Vernon serves as the chief executive officer with substantial administrative and executive powers, including appointing all city officials and overseeing the day-to-day operations of the city government. Proposed system, city manager-council. Under the proposed system, the mayor would remain a separately elected official, but would transition out of the executive role. The day-to-day administration of the city would be overseen by a professionally trained city manager appointed by the city council. The city manager would be responsible for executing the policies set by the city council, and the mayor managing city departments, delivering the budget, and making administrative decisions. The city council would retain legislative authority, including the power to approve budgets and pass ordinances. The mayor will become a voting member of the city council, will attend and preside at city council meetings, represent the city in intergovernmental relationships, appoint with the advice and consent of the city council the members of community advisory boards and commissions, present an annual state of the city message, appoint the members and officers of city council committees, assign, subject to the consent of city council, agenda items to committees, and perform other duties specified by the city council. The mayor will be recognized as head of the city government for all ceremonial purposes and by the governor for purposes of military law, but will have no administrative duties. Purpose of change: create a more balanced, efficient, and professional city government by ensuring that city management is handled by a qualified professional with expertise in public administration, reducing the potential for political interference in day-to-day city operations, enhancing accountability and transparency in city governance. If adopted, this proposal would amend the city charter of Mount Vernon to replace the current mayor form of government with a city manager council system effective 3 months before the expiration of
Nope, sorry, you're reading the old one. Effective January 28th, so effective after the term of the current mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, after. Sorry. It will be effective January 2028. Okay, instructions for voters. A yes vote will approve the change from a mayor council system to city manager council system of government in Mount Vernon. A no vote will reject the proposal and maintain the current mayor council system of government. Council manager justification background. Mount Vernon currently operates under a system where executive power is concentrated in a single elected official. While this system has traditionally been employed to provide clear leadership, it has also led to issues such as political gridlock, lack of professional oversight, and inefficiencies in governance. This problem in Mount Vernon is not merely academic. A December 2024 report released by the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York and the United States Department of Justice about police misconduct found that the police department's lack of training, vision, and accountability systems to be rooted in a long history of municipal dysfunction, and that municipal financial mismanagement has seriously eroded Mount Vernon Police Department's ability to follow basic practices standard in modern policing, such as keeping its 911 system up and running, providing its officers with taser cartridges so they have a less lethal force option, and ensuring that officers who interact with the public are equipped with body-worn cameras. Similarly, during interviews with the administration, we heard about staff being unable to work because the city failed to keep a needed account current. Transitioning to a council manager form of government where a professionally trained city manager oversees daily operations under the policy directions of the city council would enhance accountability, transparency, and fiscal stability. While the mayor is no longer a unitary executive for purposes of running the city, other important responsibilities increase, such as engaging with and representing the community, ensuring that public concerns are heard and addressed, advocating for city needs, and influencing priorities for city policies. In sum, the mayor becomes empowered to focus on long-term vision and policy rather than administrative tasks.
Okay, I don't think you have to read the research and justifications. That's there for people to go through if you so desire. And
Would you like
then
to go to key justifications or?
Sure, yeah, why don't we skip down to the key justifications?
Okay. Professional management and expertise. A council manager system ensures that the city's operations are overseen by a professionally trained and experienced administrator, reducing the risk of mismanagement. Unlike elected mayors, city managers are required to have expertise in public administration, budgeting, and municipal operations, ensuring that the city's affairs are managed competently. According to the International City County Management Association, ICMA, cities with a council manager system often experience more efficient service delivery and improved financial management. And the International City Council and Management Association has a code of ethics and a peer review with enforcement procedures for allegations of unethical conduct. 2, reduce political influence and increase stability in a strong mayor system. Political considerations often influence administrative decisions, leading to patronage, inefficiency, and frequent leadership turnover. A city manager appointed solely based on professional qualifications is insulated from political pressures, enabling long-term strategic planning. Improve fiscal oversight and accountability. Strong mayor systems have been prone to financial mismanagement due to inconsistent oversight and political conflicts. A council manager system provides structural financial oversight, with the manager ensuring responsible budget management under the direction of the elected council. Enhanced transparency and responsiveness. A city manager reports to the city council, ensuring that power is distributed among multiple elected representatives rather than being concentrated in a single executive. The council manager system encourages collaborative decision-making, where elected representatives collectively set policy while the manager focuses on efficient implementation. The governance, finance, Government Finance Officers Association recommends the council manager system as a best practice for cities seeking to improve transparency and accountability. Transitioning to a council manager form of government would provide Mount Vernon with a more stable, professional, and accountable government. This shift will align Mount Vernon with the best practices in municipal governance, and by moving executive responsibilities to a trained city manager under the policy direction of the elected council, the city can improve financial oversight, enhance service delivery, and reduce political influence in administrative decisions.
You're on mute, Tamala, if you're talking.
Sorry, can you still see my screen?
No.
Okay, Mary, can you mute yourself? So I think we're hearing a lot of stuff in the background. And anyone else, if you're not on mute, can you please?
I'm not making any noise. I'm here all by myself.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Anyone not?
I think it's
just wanna
the
ask.
City Hall room.
I
Oh.
have questions and comments. Should I save everything till the end or do it by section?
I think it'll probably be hard to save it to the end, maybe.
Okay.
What Brian,
I don't have a lot.
okay, why don't you go ahead then?
Thank you. First of all, one comment, having participated in a selection of school superintendent here, not this one and not that one. We had a mandate for a citizen involvement in the selection process for these upper echelon things, and I think that was really excellent. We had a matrix, we had a basic minimum requirement, we reviewed the resumes, we selected the ones that could move forward based on meeting the requirement, and did the initial interviews, rank ordered our selections, and then moved them on. And I think it's, you know, if our aim is to get citizenry more involved, I think that would be something to consider in some manner.
Can you please send that, Mary? Can you please email that
Sure.
To us, please?
Sure. And one of the things when we talk about adding XYZ positions, whatever they may be, have we thought about the budget and do we cut any positions? That's one question. And the other question is, what if we can't get people that have met the criteria in order for these positions? What is there some kind of a sidestep thing of what we will do should there be no one qualified or willing to accept? And the last thing I want to say is I think that we should remove all comment about Mount Vernon has the highest tax rate, because that is a disingenuous statement. We do have the highest tax rate because we have the lowest assessments, not because it reflects how much tax we pay. Tax rate is related to assessment. Pelham has 100% assessment, so they have a very low tax rate because they have 100% assessment. My assessment on my house is like $9,000. Some have advocated for a reassessment, which in fact could lower our tax rate, but actually raise our taxes. So just, I would caution not to use that phrase as a justification because it's disputable.
Thank you for the comment, but if this is this a separate comment or is this?
No, that was in the first section.
No, I'm Mary, I'm talking to Gabriel.
Oh, sorry.
You're done, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to have I don't want you to respond to Mary. Do you have a separate comment or statement about something? Gabriel, no?
Sorry, my screen was being weird. No. I just that I was going to say we have the same equalization rate as New Rochelle and twice the tax rate. That's all I'm saying. And we didn't include any villages. Yeah, we didn't include any villages or towns.
Stop, because this is all right. Thank you for the comment. Appreciate it. Take it under advisement. Don't want to have a back and forth about it. All right. I don't see anyone else. So why don't we move on to Brian?
All right, thanks, Tamala. Did you want to share that up again, or I'll just go ahead and start?
Oh, I have a question. Sorry, are we moving on to the next one?
We are.
Oh, can I ask one question about this?
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
So for this proposal, we will have an overlapping, potentially if it passes the citizenry, we'll have a overlapping city manager with an elected comptroller for 2 years. How will that work?
I mean, the same way it would work, the city manager would not get to appoint a finance professional until the comptroller's term ended. And then we would move to the appointed, if people wanted this, right? Because people still have to vote for this. We have to get it out of commission, people have to vote for it. So if people voted for both a city manager and an appointed finance professional, that appointment would not happen until the term of the elected comptroller ended.
And what about in terms of the Board of Estimate and contract? Like how would contracts get approved? What would be the process? Would the city manager have a vote on the Board of Estimate and contract? Would the city manager have the responsibility for not approving expenses, or would that be left up to the comptroller who's elected? What would
The city manager would do what the mayor is doing.
So we would retain a vote in this. Appointed city manager would have a vote, a 1/3 vote on the Board of Estimate and contract.
Board of Estimate and contract, right? Because we would have to retain that Board of Estimate and contract until there was a different system, right? If the comptroller thing doesn't happen, that's the system that we would be in, right? Unless there was a decision to change that, and I don't think that's what we're talking about right now. Anything else? I don't see any other hands. Does anybody else see any other hands? Okay, Brian.
All right, thanks, Tamala. The second proposal, elimination of elected comptroller in favor of appointed finance professional.
Hey, point of order, can Tamala share her screen again? Or for this section so people can see? Or somebody share the screen? Oh, do I?
No.
Oh,
No.
sorry. I didn't realize I stopped sharing.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, no worries.
Can you see it?
Yep. So now, okay, ballot initiative number 2, proposal to convert the office of elected comptroller to an appointed finance professional in the city of Mount Vernon. Shall the city of Mount Vernon, New York amend its city charter to convert the position of elected comptroller to an appointed finance professional? Explanation. Current system, elected comptroller. Under the current system, the comptroller is elected by the voters of Mount Vernon. The comptroller is responsible for overseeing the city's financial operations, including budgeting, auditing, and financial reporting. Proposed change, appointed finance professional. Under the proposed system, the position of comptroller would be eliminated and replaced with an appointed finance professional. This position would be appointed by the mayor with approval by city council in a mayor-council system, and by the city manager in a city manager-council system. The finance professional must be a qualified expert in public finance and will be responsible for managing the city's financial operations, providing advice on fiscal policies, and ensuring sound financial management. Purpose of change: bring a higher level of expertise to the city's financial operations by hiring a qualified professional with experience in public finance and budgeting. Reduce political influence over financial oversight, ensuring more objective and efficient financial management, and improve the overall fiscal health of the city by having a dedicated expert manage financial affairs. If adopted, this proposal would amend the city charter of Mount Vernon to replace the elected position of comptroller with an appointed finance professional, effective upon the expiration of the term of the elected comptroller, January 2030, and the appointment of the new position. Instructions for voters: yes vote will approve the change from an elected comptroller to an appointed finance professional. A no vote will reject the proposal, keeping the elected comptroller position as it currently stands. Comptroller finance professional justification. Background: for decades, Mount Vernon has faced persistent financial management challenges, including delayed audits, budget discrepancies, and inefficiencies within the comptroller's office. In the past several years, there have been several instances of the loss of large amounts of public funds due to failures of proper financial controls. When asked, the office noted that it has no policies or procedures for how things should work, nor any other employee-facing instructions about operations. Instead, employees are instructed to use the charter. Finally, there is a missing understanding of complex financial processes that residents should be able to expect of its chief financial officer. To ensure professional oversight and fiscal responsibility, the team recommends transition from an elected comptroller to an appointed, highly qualified financial expert. We note here that the team expressed some concern about offering this change because in the event the city manager change does not happen, the result would be to consolidate power within one office, something the team identified as one of the root causes of Mount Vernon's issues. Upon further discussion, however, we agreed that this change is either good policy or it is not, and good policy cannot rely on the X factor of people or personalities. Because our research confirmed that an appointed qualified financial expert is preferable to an elected controller, we send this proposal out of committee but for voting by the full commission. Okay, and I'll just go to the key justifications. Enhanced financial expertise and stability. An elected controller may lack the requisite experience or professional qualifications in financial management, budgeting, and municipal finance that should be expected of the person responsible for public funds. Appointing a controller would allow the city to select a candidate with certified public accountant, CPA credentials, government finance experience, and a proven record of fiscal responsibility. Other cities have benefited from financial oversight led by appointed professionals rather than elected officials with potentially limited expertise. 2, improved accountability and oversight. An elected controller operates independently and may not be accountable to professional standards beyond voter support. An appointed controller would be accountable to the mayor and/or city council, ensuring alignment with long-term financial strategies and adherence to state and federal auditing requirements. In Mount Vernon, previous disputes between the controller and city officials led to financial gridlock, preventing the timely payment of bills and proper execution of budgets. 3, reduction of political influence. Municipal finance should be guided by professional best practices rather than political considerations. An elected controller may be incentivized to make decisions based on electoral calculations rather than sound fiscal policy. An appointed finance officer would function as a neutral administrator focused on financial transparency and efficiency rather than political gain. 4, alignment with best practices. Most large municipalities and private corporations entrust their financial oversight to appointed professionals rather than elected officials. According to the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, best practices recommend that municipal financial oversight be entrusted to professionals with relative financial credentials and experience. In fact, in response to a question posed to the GFOA by our consultant, the NCL, about the commonality of elected controllers, the GFOA responded, "I don't think election is particularly common. Though I don't have data on this, I'd expect it is more common in the Northeast of the US than other places, as it is in my experience that less professionalized forms of government tend to be more common there. Yes, I've heard many a time about cities making formally elected finance officials into appointed positions, and elected treasurers or commissioners of revenue is a terrible system dating back to Jefferson days of citizen government, very inefficient and political. By replacing the elected controller with an appointed finance professional, Mount Vernon can improve fiscal stability, reduce political conflict, and ensure financial accountability. This reform aligns with New York State municipal governance laws and best practices in public finance. To safeguard the city's financial future, this transition should be pursued as a matter of priority.
Okay, any questions about this? Seeing none. Don,
No, Anitra has a hand up.
Yes, thank you. Did you all purposely decide not to have advise and consent with the council on the appointment of the comptroller?
Sorry, ask that again.
So it says that the finance professional will be appointed by the mayor. but it does not include advice and consent from the council. Is that purposely?
No, no. So, again, offered for comment if you think, that is good policy, noted, send it along. It was not intentional, no.
Okay, thank you.
Especially if we put the one in with the mayor being part of the council and not having the overarching administrative duties, that would be contradictory.
Miss Hogan's, were you trying to say something? No, just leaning forward.
Yes, and just making sure that, that if we're going to speak, that we are acknowledged by you first before we just start speaking out.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. I put myself on mute again. Moving on to the fabulous Donna.
Thank you, Tamala. All right, Council Ward hybrid model. Ballot initiative number 3, proposal to change the method of electing city council members and define the role of mayor in Mount Vernon. Shall the city of Mount Vernon, New York amend its city charter to change the method of electing city council members from 5 elected at large to 4 members elected by ward and 1 member elected at large? The explanation: the current system, at-large election of council members. Under the current system, all 5 city council members are elected at large, meaning they are voted on by all voters in Mount Vernon, regardless of the geographic area of the city they represent. Proposed change, ward-based election system. Under the proposed system, Mount Vernon would be divided into 4 geographic wards. 4 city council members would be elected by the voters in their respective wards, ensuring that each area of the city is represented by a council member who resides in or represents that area. The 5th city council member would continue to be elected at large, voted on by all city residents. If the city adopts a city manager form of government, if the city of Mount Vernon adopts a city manager form of government, the city council would add an additional member for a total of 6, with 2 elected at large by all voters and 4 by ward. The mayor will become the 7th voting member of the city council, will attend and preside at city council meetings, represent the city in intergovernmental relationships, appoint with the advice and consent of the city council the members of community advisory boards and commissions, present in an annual state of the city message, appoint the members and officers of city council committees, assign, subject to the consent of city council, agenda items to committees, and perform other duties specified by the city council. The mayor will be recognized as head of the city government for all ceremonial purposes and by the governor for purposes of military law, but will have no administrative duties. The purpose of the change is to provide more local representation by ensuring that each geographic area of the city has direct representation through a ward-based system. Balance local and citywide representation by maintaining an at-large position. Provide a clear distinction in governance and preserve some authority for the mayor if the city transitions to a city manager system by designating the at-large council member as mayor. If adopted, this proposal would amend the city charter of Mount Vernon to establish a ward-based city council election system effective upon the creation of the wards, which shall be completed not later than December 2027. So on the ballot, the instructions for voters: a yes vote will approve the change to a system where 4 city council members are elected by ward and 1 member is elected at large, with the at-large member serving as mayor if a city manager system is adopted. A no vote will reject the proposal and maintain the current at-large election system for all city council members.
So Don, I'm just gonna stop you for 1 minute because I just noticed that bullet number 3 in the yes bullet is actually off. It, in the one that is right is the one that says a city, if the city adopts a city manager form of government, there's an additional council member. The mayor is independently elected also, and she's also at large, or he or she is also at large. So
Okay.
I will correct that and resend it. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Council Ward hybrid justification. The background is that Mount Vernon currently elects its city council members through an at-large system where all representatives are chosen by the entire electorate. While this system has historically been used to promote broad representation, it has also led to concerns about equitable representation, responsiveness, and accountability. Transitioning to a hybrid model where some council members are elected by district and others at large can enhance local governance by ensuring fairer, more focused representation and improved community engagement. An additional benefit of this model is increased access to the political process for those wishing to pursue public office, but who have been unable to do so because of the cost involved in running for citywide elective office. I think I should just go down to the key justifications at this point. The first one, ensuring fair representation for all communities. At-large elections often disadvantage geographically concentrated communities, particularly minority and lower income neighborhoods, by making it harder for them to elect representatives who directly understand and advocate for their local needs. A hybrid model ensures that each district has a dedicated voice on the council while still maintaining citywide representation through at-large members. Enhancing accountability and responsiveness. Council members elected at large may not feel as directly accountable to specific neighborhoods, leading to disparities in city services and resources. District-based representatives can more effectively address hyper-local concerns, ensuring more direct advocacy for neighborhood-specific issues like issues with garbage collection, infrastructure maintenance, public safety, and local economic development. Having at-large members in a hybrid system ensures that broader citywide concerns like budgetary oversight and long-term strategic planning remain a key part of governance. Encouraging more local political participation. Campaigning in at-large elections can be cost prohibitive, discouraging grassroots candidates from running and limiting competition to well-funded candidates with name recognition. A hybrid system lowers the barriers to entry by allowing district-level candidates to campaign in smaller, more manageable geographic areas, encouraging a more diverse pool of candidates. Because hybrid systems lowers the barriers for entry, it can also reduce the influence of people attempting to gain financial influence over elected officials like land and property developers. Reduces the risk of vote dilution. At-large elections often result in majority populations dominating council composition, potentially leading to the underrepresentation of minority communities. Transitioning to a hybrid model can preempt potential legal challenges by ensuring that all communities have a fair chance at electing representatives. A hybrid city council system would provide Mount Vernon with a more representative, accountable, and effective form of governance. By ensuring fair district representation while maintaining citywide perspectives, this model strengthens local democracy and enhances the city's ability to meet the needs of all its residents. Moving towards a system aligns with best practices in municipal governance and ensures that Mount Vernon's government reflects the diverse and unique needs of its communities.
Okay, so I just want to point out before we go to questions that after this is the charter that it borrows enormously from the Model City Charter and actually a little bit from some great language from New Rochelle's charter. The blue was really for me, like these sort of points of discussion, if we were to do something like this. And then at the end, at the end is just, you know, a visual of what this would look like. I want to note that Anitra, I did get your, I don't know what but Anitra, I did get your other visual. And the only reason I didn't include it is because it looks like the visual for when the mayor is actually made a part of the city council and the city council decides who the mayor is. And I wanted the visual to make sure it represented that the mayor is a separately elected, I separately elected position that just sits on the council and sort of leads the council. So that's why I didn't use that visual. And then under this is just another visual of how if all of this happened, or even if part of it happened, how it would be phased in. All right, so any questions about this?
Rosa.
Oh, okay. Hi, Rosa.
Yes, so under key justifications, I just wanted to get some more clarity around number 4, reducing the risk of vote dilution. At-large elections often result in majority populations dominating council composition, potentially leading to the underrepresentation of minority communities. Is that the case here in Mount Vernon?
Yeah.
The majority. Can you give some more context around that?
Yeah, only to note that minority doesn't necessarily mean Black people. So, a minority community could be any community. Are you talking?
Yeah, I was asking, what does it mean? I didn't hear you.
It could any community. It could be any community that is the minority in the community, right? So, when the Model City Charter and other things talk about diversity, it's talking about more than just racial diversity, right? It could be the minority community. If you're in a rich community, could be, poor people. If you're in a community that is predominantly one race, but let's say you have a group of, Hispanic people or Latino people, right? They can be the underrepresented group. So it's really about underrepresentation. And maybe that's the term we should use instead of minority, because I know where people's minds go when you say minority. It's really about underrepresented communities, not sort of having a say in the process. Mary?
We could use the word equitable or inequitable rather than minority or underrepresented, just inequitable, because people feel, whether it's justified or not in our city, that there is an inequitable distribution of power, favor, and resource.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll definitely, I don't know if inequitable would work in the way we're using it, but we can think of another term. Any other questions?
I just have a general question.
Yep.
Overall, so do we have any examples of cities that have made the change recently, even if they're not in New York, from a strong, the mayor, council to city manager, council, and that are comparable to Mount Vernon that you all have spoken to as part of your subcommittee? Or
yeah, we got some
this?
data. Sorry, were you?
No, I said just to inform this recommendation.
Yeah, I will attach some data that we got from NCL. So when I make these corrections, I'm waiting for, their they were gonna draft, not recommendations, attachments to this too. But I did ask that question, and they supplied some data, which I will correct the errors that I see in here and send that out when I send this out again. Gabriel?
Yeah, interestingly enough, it was mentioned earlier that Ethics.org ICMA, and I can find it, email it out. They have a data printout and they actually list how many municipalities voted for a chief appointed officer or city manager from each form of government and what percentage of them passed the ballot and the vote. And I bet if I asked them, they could actually list the specific cities, because they provide that on a yearly basis, that data of how many cities change form of governance and et cetera. So I can find that and send it out.
We can pull that too and include it. Yeah. Is your hand back up?
Yes, I was just going to respond to that and say it would be helpful not only to have that data, but to actually have maybe some conversations to find out if it's working, or like if it's not working, what's preventing it from working, so that if we're actually putting this forward for the citizens of Mount Vernon to vote for, then we can say, we make sure that we avoid pitfalls, and make sure that this is a recommendation that has been fully vetted.
Gabriel.
I do have my hand up. Yeah, I just wanted to say that
Still up?
75% of cities the size of Mount Vernon have this form.
Gabriel,
Yes.
yeah.
No, I called on him. His hand was up.
Oh, I thought you were just calling to check to see if his hand was back up because he wasn't in line.
No, I was
asking. Oh, sorry.
He never put it down. That's what I was asking. Eileen?
I'm sorry about that. Just to add to that, the conversation, those who have moved to that form of government, I'm also curious to see what other structures they have in place that support that form of government. I just know when we did those interviews, there was just mixed conversations about how well they work, but one of the things that was resounding was also what's the structure that that particular city also had in place that enabled the different functions to work, be it a city manager or mayor. There was infrastructures that also needed to be thought about to execute on that.
So I'm not actually sure I understand what you want to be asked. If you could put your question down and just send it to me, I want to make sure that we're getting the answer to the question that you're actually asking.
Yeah, I'll add thought. It's not necessarily a question, it's just added point, but I'll lay my point out a little bit clearer.
Thank you. Rosa?
Yeah, just in terms of the how the geographic division, how is that how is that determined in terms of how it's broken up geographically? And who's doing that? Is there a special committee that's going to do that? I'm not.
Yeah.
Clarity.
Sorry, are you done?
Yep.
Yeah, a commission would be appointed to do it. That's generally how it's done. So council would have a period of time before it's implemented to appoint a commission. That commission's job would be, and obviously they would be expert at it in the way that we're not. And their job would be to, look at the city, collect the information they need, consider all the things that they need to consider and do the wards.
So a current council, if this passes, a current council would install a commission?
Well, I mean, current, it depends, right? Like if this passes, yeah. Well, whoever is sitting on the council when this passes would be the ones who would appoint the commission.
And that's laid out here.
That's it. That is in the charter that is attached. It's not in the ballot initiatives, right? Which need to be kept pretty simple. So it's in the charter section that relates to the ward system. Gabriel, I don't know, Mary, I think
Mary first.
Mary's
first.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I believe that's outlined how that happens in the model city charter.
Yep, and it's copied here.
Yeah. Right there.
Was that it? Just the comment?
Yep.
Gabriel?
Oh, I just wanted to say to Rosa's point, there are like laws, federal laws, well, hopefully there's still federal laws around this process. Like they have to be equal population. You can't gerrymander people or put all people of one, that defeats the whole purpose. But there are a lot of laws because I would have it sounds like some of the same concerns that she had when I was doing research about this.
Yeah, and if you go back and read some of I didn't have people read this because I don't want us to be here till like 11 o'clock at night, but in the research section, it talks about, some of those things, some of those issues. Even there's a footnote on gerrymandering, which Gabriel just mentioned. It's not really an issue for Mount Vernon because of actually some of what we talked about earlier, but it is in the research sections. I don't see any other questions. I encourage people to please go and do read the research sections. And, Mary, again, I recall like you had some suggestions. If you could just send them, and Eileen, you'll send your question, and we will correct what's wrong here and then attach the information that we got from NCL, and Gabriel will find the cities who switched information, and we'll attach all that the next time we send this out. All right, and if anyone doesn't have the password for the survey and you want it, please just email me. All right. Brian?
Thanks. Just a quick ask. I know like we reviewed the 3 proposals here and some other ones. It might be helpful before the next meeting to get just to finalize even a bulleted list of what are going to be up for vote, so that to your point, so we can all just do our additional research in preparation for that. I don't know if we have that consolidated list anywhere, but that could be helpful.
Well, I mean, we have a consolidated list. We need to figure out
Right.
What's coming from the blue team, if anything, and then happy to do that once we have that additional piece of information.
Right. Thanks.
Anything else? I don't see anything else. Kareem, we're done, right?
Yeah, there was old business, new business, but I think that has been discussed here in any adjournment. Those were the last points on the agenda. So
Okay.
I'll turn it.
Wait, Mary has a hand up.
I can't, you're on mute, I think.
I muted myself. Sorry. Again, I just wanted to put this on as a possibility for a vote, that we consider adopting the entire model city charter and then inserting the pieces that we like, as have been discussed, in order to streamline the process and make it cleaner. And secondly, it's in the end of this, and I would like to do this again in the beginning of our next meeting, but I'd like to invite Spanish-speaking people in Spanish, if I may, for a second.
Yes, you absolutely may, but can I just point out again, the model city charter is there.
Yes, I'm aware.
Okay, because
a lot of it, not all of it.
No, all of it.
You've got it all in.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I would like to get rid of the old charter. I think it's a hot mess.
I would not disagree with you. All right, you want to do your, oh,
Yeah.
wait, sorry, wait, Justino has his hand up.
Quick comment, request that the rules on the voting be emailed out to everyone. I know that were read into the record, but
I think they were, but I will do it. I will do it again. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize if you did and I missed it.
It's fine. I can do it again. So it's at the top of everybody's email. All right, Mary, you want to do?
Yeah, and then I would like to do it at the beginning of the next meeting, because I don't think anybody's going to listen to all this in English and then hear me. But me gustaría decir a los hispanos hablantes que viven en la ciudad de Mount Vernon que estamos trabajando para cambiar nuestra carta. Es una documentación que significa cómo procedimos con todo en nuestra ciudad, y queremos oír de ustedes sobre qué ustedes piensan, y pueden llamarme en mi número que está disponible en la red, o pueden mandar correo electrónico y podemos leerlo. I'm sorry to my Portuguese friends, I don't speak Portuguese.
Okay. David?
Yes. So Mary, I mean, I think it's a great idea for Spanish people. What I would suggest, if you want to do that going forward, is have a printed thing in English, one in Spanish beside it that you're going to read off in Spanish.
Oh, I just said we're here.
I understand.
I want to hear from you.
No,
You can call or email. That's all.
No,
I
I'm just
said.
saying that way, you know, the English-speaking people can know what you're saying.
As I said.
All right, thank
We'd
you.
love to hear from you. That's all I said. We're here doing the charter.
It's okay.
We'd love to hear from you.
All right.
All right. So we're done.
Yay.
Good night.